That was really good. Ready to rumble? Seriously. Welcome. You made it. The jury's still out for me. So I just wanted to welcome you to this session. What do you do when you've lost your faith? Oh, wait, no, hang on. Did I get that wrong? Yeah. Financial resources available now. And apparently, if you title a session that ends in an exclamation point, everyone wants to come. Cool, he said. Our goal today is to share with you some opportunities for you to consider in developing the ministry of your parish. We'll be focused on financial resources today, but I want to emphasize a point that Bishop Audrey made in her monthly YouTube video with Bishop Kevin, where she named that resources aren't always just financial. However, our language sometimes is coded to think that that means cash, right? We have resources in the diocese that are not financial in nature. You're looking at two. These are resources available to you in the diocese that can provide you with pastoral, consulting, advice, listening, the occasional cold beer, etc. I would encourage you to check out on the YouTube, on the Tube of You or YouTube, the bishop video from Friday, because it was really eye-opening about Bishop Audrey's perspective on what resources are. The most important thing I'm going to tell you today is also the simplest thing, and that is almost everything we're going to say today is on the diocesan website, right? So in the diocesan website, on the right side, if you're using a web browser on your computer, there is a resources section. And in that resources section is a page called Parish Management. Who has seen the Parish Management page before? Many of you, yes. The Parish Management is this enormous old school web page that has truckloads of information. Things we're going to talk about today, but also things that we aren't talking about today, but still are available to you. Definitely do take the time to take a look at that page, because it will have everything that you might want to know. So let's get started with our first resource. We're going to talk first about assessment adjustments. So this was a program that was designed as a way for parishes who are experiencing financial distress. This distress could be hopefully temporary in nature. It could be an unplanned event, such as a small parish whose top 3 donors have since transitioned to live with God, or Florida, whatever the case be. One of the things that I want to say about assessment adjustment is there's an application, and the application walks you through, and it's not too terribly laborious, even though that's an occasional complaint. There are some questions to respond to that really do their best to allow you to talk about your ministry at your parish, as well as what the causes of this temporary distress might be. Scroll up to where I mentioned seeing God or Florida. We also ask for financial statements, nothing more than what is canonically required that you present at every single vestry meeting. And we also ask that you provide us your annual reports, that same sort of meeting or summation from your parish annual meeting. And the reason for this is because the Mission Resources Committee, or the band that I call MRC, really likes to get to understand what the ministry at your parish is about. It's important to know that this application must be affirmed by your vestry, as well as, if you have one, a priest in charge or rector. So those signatures need to be on there as well. Assessment adjustment is rooted in the spiritual nature of our mutual ministry together. Without trying to insult anyone here, but speaking directly to this point, what we're really looking for is your best case of why every other parish in the diocese should be supporting your ministry on a temporary basis. Because that's really what we're trying to, live through, is that you are experiencing distress, and we feel compelled to say, and parishes are standing with you and supporting you while you're addressing this short-term problem that you're facing. So the Mission Resources Committee, or the MRC, is comprised of 9 clergy and lay leaders from across the entire diocese. We don't promote their names on the website, not because we're trying to prevent campaigning or anything like that, but because Steve hasn't gotten around to it. But you will see their signatures when your application is completed. They are wonderful. They have a variety of experiences in parishes, and I'm always moved by their observations and their hopeful nature with regards to seeing this ministry through with you. So I am incredibly grateful for every member of the Mission Resources Committee and the work that they do. They meet on a monthly basis to review assessment adjustment applications, as well as something we'll talk later about, which is mission resource grants. Key leaders from the parish that are asking for an assessment adjustment will meet via Zoom for 10, 20 minutes or so to sort of get to know each other, ask questions, and share information. These meetings are really powerful. They are one of my favorite things, besides meeting with wardens and treasurers, about the work that I do. They are just great meetings to learn more about what churches are facing in our diocese. It's really authentic. After hearing the application, the Mission Resources Committee has a conversation, dialogue within the committee, and then makes a recommendation to Diocesan Council, because it's Diocesan Council that has the canonical authority to be able to make adjustments to a parish's assessment. So what will typically happen is the MRC will make a recommendation after their meeting, which is at the beginning of the month. Diocesan Council meets at the end of the month. The recommendation could be for an intervention by the bishop or by the bishop's designate, this guy. It could be to a portion of what was asked for forgiveness to be forgiven. It could be all of it. It just kind of depends on the nature of the application and the dialogue that happens. I will tell you that full assessment adjustment is typically not granted. I haven't seen it once yet. The hope is that parish is able to at least somehow participate in the ministry of the diocese with some portion of their assessment. So I have not yet seen one where all of it is forgiven. And if you are a parish that it's taking more than a few years to get through the distress that you're facing, what you will see typically is a declining amount of adjustment being approved by Diocesan Council, i.e. if you end up getting $5,000 forgiven or not paid, you probably won't see that number again. You'll probably see less if you're a year 2 or a year 3 participant. In 2024, the diocesan budget for assessment adjustment is $60,000. It had been previously $50,000 for the last few years running. It was increased in 2024 because we're still experiencing some pretty strong inflation in the economy, which is resulting in some pretty large recommendations by diocesan convention for compensation increases. And so we were hopeful that parishes who were struggling to adhere to the recommendation from convention would come for assessment adjustment. Historically, this diocese has underutilized that line, and not by a small amount, by a large amount. I did want to speak to this a little personally about this. I can't help but think, after working with as many parishes that I have, that some parishes are foregoing expenses in order to pay their full assessment. And while I appreciate that dedication to the ministry of the diocese, that it comes at the expense of maybe staff or employees' compensation or ministry in your local community, to me is a shame. And I would encourage you that if you are experiencing some sort of short-term or temporary inability to pay your assessment, that you please contact us and explore having some relief extended to you. Because really, at the end of the day, the hope from this process is that with the Mission Resources Committee, a parish has created or brainstormed a plan to get out from underneath this. Sometimes those plans are very painful, but they're a plan nonetheless. And I would prefer to be working on the plan than removing resources from ministry directly in your community. I hope that makes sense to everyone. We're going to hold questions until the end, just because there's so many of us. But what I want to transition next to is Paula talking about a loan program from the diocese.
Canon 4, Section 3. No mortgage, judgment, voluntary lien, or indebtedness shall be incurred by any congregation of this diocese without the consent and approval of the bishop diocesan, if there be one, and the standing committee. So you say to me, well, I need a new roof. We don't have that money sitting in our account. What do we do? Come to the diocesan office. The first thing we're going to direct you to is a Colt Sterrett loan. Our Colt Sterrett loan is something that is done through the diocese. It is something we offer to you with a 10-year repayment and a very low interest rate of, currently it's 1.5% less than national prime. You can't go to the bank for that. It will go through finance committee, then it will go through council, and then it will go to the standing committee to be approved. I'm not aware of any loan that we've turned down. There's a small process of an application. We, of course, will want some financial records, and those will all get submitted to us, and we'll run it through the process. What are these loans used? What can you use this loan for? Permanent improvements, replacement or addition to real estate or equipment. So things to keep your building in shape, okay? So that's what the Colt Sterrett loan is for, and it is a resource for you if you have that need.
Thanks, Paula. One thing I did want to add, for those of you who have just been absolutely so blessed to have been through the vestry training that I have extended, you will know that I convey the concept that while you might hold the deed to your parish, you're really holding it in trust for the diocese, the building. And this is an important point here as we talk about the Colt Sterrett loan, because the diocese has a vested interest in the maintenance of your property, right? And so at the end of the day, helping maintain that property is all of our responsibilities. And there's a great resource available to you because we have this vested interest in that. And if you, for some reason, we'll have questions at the end. If you have, for some reason, lose the ability to pay the loan back, who's coming for you? This guy. That's not a big deal. I'm not a bank. I can't put you in jail. I got nothing on you. So, I mean, I don't mean to speak of this in this way, except to convey this is part of that vested interest. I am not interested in anything except your success. No one here is interested in anything except your success. We are not here to trip you up. And so if something happens with your loan, you're coming to us and we're talking about it. We had a parish in the diocese coming through the assessment adjustment program, and we said, hey, you know what? Let's pump the brakes on your Colt Sterrett loan for a bit. Let's reevaluate at the end of the year and see where you are financially and whether you can pick up where you lost off on paying those payments. So, Colt Sterrett, C-O-L-T, like the horse. Sorry if that was your question. All of this is on the parish management on the diocesan website, so you'll find it. Thank you. Have I beat that horse enough? Okay, let's move on. Get the joke? Wasn't that good? I'm doing this on 3 hours of sleep, people. The Mission Resource Grants. Okay, this program was imagined to encourage parishes to consider embarking on new ministries where they typically decide against doing so because they couldn't make financial sense of it. Another way to say this is that we hoped that parishes would consider taking risks for the sake of innovation and learning, because we want parishes to try new things and share their learnings with others, including learnings of failure and success, because both of them are equally important when it comes to imagining church in a different way. And sharing broadly with the diocese, whether it's over the lunch table, here, in a session, in a video, whatever I ask you to do, if you get a grant, you're going to do it. Maybe. We're not really good on the follow-through part yet, but we'll get there. But we have in our mind that we would really like to hear from you. We asked for reports back in this thing, but at some point, we're going to have a Mission Resources Grant Conference, and it's going to be amazing. Parishes, like the assessment adjustment, submit an application that includes sort of an overview of the ministry that they have envisioned, a budget for that ministry, and it doesn't have to be a sophisticated budget. It can be some lines in a table in Word if you're not an Excel person. That's cool. But what we are looking for is what the budget is for that, the expenses. We're going to ask for those same financial reports to make sure that we're looking at healthy parishes when we consider this, parish budget, balance sheet, etc. Anything that you're submitting to the vestry on a monthly basis. Applications are again reviewed on a monthly basis by that band, the MRC. In this case, there isn't a need for diocesan council to approve them. This is technicality, you don't have to worry about it. You just know that the response will come more quickly and that the Mission Resources Committee spends that line on the budget without the diocesan council. The budget line for Mission Resource Grants in 2024 is $85,000. Historically, we've done a really good job utilizing a majority of that line. I think we got to less than $10,000 last year of what the budgeted one. Examples of grants include things like an expanded communications program within a parish as well as to its surrounding community, an expansion of a ministry with a Latino community focused on music, funding a study of a potential expanded use of an unused rectory, a new campus ministry effort at a neighboring college, and that's just part of the 8 grants from 2023 that range from $500 to $16,000. Again, if your parish is considering a new ministry or a significant expansion of an existing ministry, we're not really about trying to fund a ministry that's been going on forever, unless it's changing drastically, and you're just short on the funding, please go to the parish management section on the resources section of the website to learn more. So what is this whole long name grant society thing, Paula? It always confuses me.
Well, don't ask me to say the whole name of it besides long name grant.
Anybody know the whole name?
Go ahead.
Give it a shot, Sherry. Oh. Sorry? No, the name of the long name society. It has like Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania Society of Advancement for something. Yeah.
Episcopal
I don't know.
Church.
The long name grant.
Long name. Long name's fine.
This is my favorite resource, by far my favorite resource. As far as the grant process goes, this one couldn't be more simple. It is a grant that is for all dioceses within the state of Pennsylvania. It is monitored by an outside committee, outside of our diocese committee. Basically, you submit to me a letter of request with all the basic information that a grant application would include. Why you need it, what you need, how much you need, what you're asking for, those kind of things. Pretty simple. At least one proposal and a signed copy of your parochial report. That's it. You submit that to me. This grant is open 3 times a year, September, December, and April 15th of those months. You'll submit them to me. I will then review them as well as Steve. We will make our recommendations to the bishop, who will submit a letter of recommendation to the society on your behalf for these grants. The grant committee usually meets the beginning of the month, the following month that we require them to be submitted, and you'll hear directly from them how much they're giving you, or if they're giving you anything. I've only seen them turn down a grant once or twice because it is a limited fund, and it depends on how many people have submitted requests and how much those requests are that have been sent in. And of course, it's going to go on need base first. So if you are a much needier parish, you're going to be looked at first. But it's a great, simple grant process. So if you're looking for something, and this grant is also to help you do parish maintenance, keep the lights on, those gas bills that come through in the wintertime that are ridiculous, you're struggling, they can help with that. You need a new roof, they can help with that. You're doing stuff with your windows, they can help with that. There's so much that they can do. If it's something to do with your building, they can help you. So.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Paula. Free money. Free money. Free money. Questions? Want to ask questions?
Questions?
Paula's going to run around with a microphone if you have a question so
Sure.
that it can be heard on the recording, because we've got all your social security numbers and we're coming for you. Can you say your name and your parish, please?
Sharon Lowe from St. Andrews, Allentown. Is there any limit to the amount of money that can be granted?
In the long name?
The long name grant does have limits. They only, like I said, it is a limited amount that they can offer each time period. I'm sure it goes by whatever that their investment trusts are for that time period. And of course, it's always going to depend on how many grants they get and how much each of those grants are. I've seen grants anywhere from $1,500 to $20,000, just to give you an idea.
Great. The only other thing that I would add would be, it is for the Episcopal Church, as Paula mentioned, in the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And they do some sort of trying to make sure that they equitably allocate the funds to each of the dioceses in total that are applying.
Steve, I just wanted to ask, Sherry Noctor, St. John's in Palmerton, as you all know me now. Anyway, the DIT income for the last several years, it's always been at 4.5%, and the banks are giving 5%. Are we going to be seeing any kind of increase?
So, okay.
Paul?
Yeah, the DIT draw rate is, recommendation is done on a 5-year trailing average, recommended to us by our financial advisors, but affirmed by the investment committee, which is riding herd over the investments and the relationship in general. They're the ones who make a recommendation, finance committee, diocesan council, into the budget for that resolution. I do not think that it's going to change for 4.5%, from 4.5% for the next year. If the extra 0.5% is an issue for you, no, and I don't mean to be, it's simply to say, there's a lot of places where within the DIT, it's your funds to manage anyway because they were unrestricted or the restriction was placed on them by that. And there are times where you're gonna have to lean into it a little bit more than the standard draw. So if you need to just, oh, I'm sorry. I heard 4.5 and I took
Right.
off.
It's not the purpose of my question, is that's exactly correct. We're getting 4.5%. I can pull that money out of there and invest it at a higher interest rate. That's what I'm saying. Is there, because it's been so long at 4.5%, is there
Oh,
something
you're
that's
saying that we're
Wait,
doing a
you
bad
need-
job managing the DIT?
No, I'm just, yeah, well, yes.
Okay,
yes,
no,
I
that's
am.
fair.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fair. Yes, I do, absolutely. I'm sorry. I know her really well. I love her. We play like this. You're absolutely free to do that. I'm not stopping you from doing that. I know that sort of on a, I meet with the investment committee on a quarterly basis. Our investments are specifically conservative, as that is reflective of the nature of the church. And so in broadest sense, we have exceeded inflation and a 4.5% draw, even protecting for risk of investments. So I think that we would be having a harder conversation about DIT performance if we weren't at least outpacing the 4.5% and the annual inflation, especially during the last 2 years. But the investment committee has been on top of our partners at Truist about this point, and they feel comfortable enough for it. But you're absolutely right. If for some reason a parish wants to invest separately, they are welcome to do so. There's nothing canonically preventing them from doing so. I would encourage it. I mean, I would never want to put one of you between you and sort of what's going on at your parish. Yeah, absolutely. I get it. Yep. No, absolutely. And these are the questions that we are also asking. So when you're able to tell your vestry, how is this going on? You explain, what you heard, and then you point them to Paula or me for the cranky pants that needs to hear a little bit more, which I adore too. I love talking to cranky people.
It's important to
Some
note,
of you know
though,
this.
that's not necessarily what we're earning. That's what we're suggesting you take as a draw so that the fund continues to experience growth and stay strong.
Yep.
It's not necessarily what we're earning. So yes, you can go to the bank and earn more, but that's not necessarily what we're earning.
People think they can, and what she's trying to say is, yeah, absolutely. Yep, no, thank you. I'm grateful for that question. A different topic question. Let's move on. I'm done talking about the DIT.
My question is,
Name? I know
Debbie-
you, but go ahead.
Debbie Minton from Trinity Carbondale.
Thank you.
That Colt Sterrett loan,
Yes.
if we have money, like a significant amount of money in our DIT investment, but we don't want to touch it anymore, but we need a roof, will that money in our investment affect us getting a loan?
Let me reshape that a little bit. How does it affect it? We want value in the DIT to be retained by parishes to the best of our ability. We also want to be able to maintain the Colt Sterrett invested funds in such a way that they're able to sustain the loans that exist and allow for loans in the future. So the only point where we might actually be going, hang on a second, is if for some reason we're starting to reach the end of the funds that we have available for loan, because we have loans out, revenue coming in as loan payments with a little bit of interest, right? And so the only time that I could actually ever imagine that that would be the case is if we're running to the end of funds that we can loan. There's some ratios that we have set up to prevent that from happening, but I can tell you in my 5 years thus, no. We haven't said, well, they're just rich, why do they need a loan, right? We have always said, you know what, they get a loan. They have a project, and they have, okay, I do protect a little bit, and they have the capacity to repay it. Let's extend that loan to them. I hope that answers your question. Let's move on. Another question on a different topic. Dan. But still make him say his name.
Dan Graham from St. Paul's in Montrose. There is a way, though, to take out more than,
Yes.
back to your DIT, and there is a process to do that. Should we need, like our roof is getting
Yeah.
where we're going to have to do something.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
all
Yep.
right.
Yeah, you are not limited by the 4.5%, assuming that the fund is not restricted for a certain purpose and you're trying to violate. The only time I ever get cranky about it is if in my fund research, I have materials that tell me, you know, they're trying to buy playground equipment and that was supposed to be for vestments. That's the only time I would ever kind of go, hey, let's have a conversation about that. Thanks, Dan. What else? Questions about financial resources available now? I had no idea the exclamation point mattered. Yes, ma'am. Olivia.
If I apply for
Name?
a grant,
Who are you?
oh, I'm sorry, Olivia Tremontana, Nativity, Bethlehem.
Hi, Olivia.
So I apply for a grant and doesn't happen.
Okay.
I'm losing my voice. So you said the one is like
Oh, the
3
long,
times a
are we
year?
talking about the long name?
Yes.
Okay, and it doesn't happen.
Like
It can-
I'm late, whatever. Do I have to reapply?
Yes. The question was, does it, if for some reason it's declined or it doesn't make the window, do I have to reapply? Short answer is yes. The longer answer is you probably have the application already. You can just send it again to us and we're going to put the same stuff through. You might have to dust off some financials.
Hi, with Trinity in Mount Pocono.
Hi, Dana.
What is the budget for the Mission Resources grant every year, and how much of it is used, and any unused portion, does that get rolled over to the next year so
Yep.
you have even more money?
Cool. So the mission resources line for the last 2 years, including this year, is $85,000. Assuming I survive this weekend, I will start 2025 planning. For that, I would imagine that it will be $85,000 in 2025 as well. I don't see an expansion in that line. In terms of utilization, we have utilized more than 90% of that line for the last 2 years running, which is pretty decent, especially considering the marketing of the program isn't exceptional. It's good, and you all are now evangelists for it, but it still could use a little more messaging. So we do a pretty good job of spending it. They roll throughout the year, so it is possible that by mid-year we could have expended the entire line. But that doesn't mean there aren't diocesan resources available to you to fund your project. I have this person in the purple shirt over here who's just loaded, and so I have the ability to be able to allocate funds from the bishop with his approval. But there are lots of ways to get to monies within the diocese as well. From an accounting perspective, if we don't use the line, it's gone. We don't carry any numbers over to the following year. We have been running, amassing a surplus to fund future years of a budget. So more generally, if for some reason, but all of those funds are sort of now currently in a bucket all by themselves. We aren't really adding to them. So if those funds are not used, they aren't utilized in the next year. The clock starts over for our accounting purposes. December. December would be a rough month to apply, but you could still get it. Yep. Because we do it at the beginning of December. Is there a question back there? Hey!
Hi, Rebecca from St. James Drifton. As a new vestry member, I have a rudimentary question, and that is, how is the assessment calculated for each parish?
Fair question. So, for the sickos who came to my parochial report Mysteries Explained session, you'll know that there's a line in there that's called line A, normal operating income, NOI. So it is a line in the parochial report that is comprised of 4 other lines that really are your normal operating income, to use a corporate term. Things like pledge plate, other income, draw from the DIT. All of those things sum up, and that's the line A. And that's the number in this diocese and many other dioceses that's used to calculate what's either called assessment or fair share. In this diocese, diocesan convention every year votes on a resolution that sets the percentage. It has been 12% for quite a number of years, 12% of that line A income. So that's how we calculate it. We use whatever you tell me is on line A. It's a parochial report, self-reported number.
Steve, Jim
Hello,
Harding.
Jim.
Yeah, since-
Jim is the chair of the Mission Resources Committee.
Thank you.
I know that's not why you asked the question.
Well, no, and it's more, I think, to let people know that, if I understand it correctly, a parish is allowed to apply for more than one grant and/or potentially assessment relief in any given year. So if you happen to go to Long Name and they don't have money, you might want to turn around and try the MRC. We're a whole lot more forgiving than those guys are, regardless of what Paula says. But don't feel you get locked in that if you quote lose once, you're done. Keep trying. Don't give up, because I think there's lots of opportunities and lots of places you can go. So just so people know.
Amen. Amen. Just curious, real quick, we'll get to the question, David. Raise your hand if you're at a parish where you know you have received directly a mission resource grant. These are my people. It's a lot. It's really a lot. We've been running this 3 years now, so plenty of people you can ask questions of. And who are you, sir?
Dave Moyer from Grace Allentown.
Welcome.
Just a question. If you apply for any of the grants, let's say for $20,000, and when the project is done and the bill comes in, and you're then only charged $15,000, does that $5,000 come back, or can that be used for another project in the church?
I typically don't ask for money back. I'm more interested in those funds, once they're allocated, to be spent on ministry. I am grateful for people who circle back to me and say, hey, this came out cheaper than we thought, kind of thing. And then we have a conversation of, okay, cool. Is there a way to utilize the remaining funds within sort of the purpose of the grant? Because if there is, I'm perfectly cool with that. There's no reason for you to write me a check back. It's just kind of a pain. I'd rather that money be in your hands than in mine. I want it all gone.
Long name grant, similar situation.
Yes.
They will, you can email Karen King, the director of that committee, that society, and let her know that, hey, this came in under, what is your preference? If you have another project that needs to be completed and you say, hey, we'd love to be able to utilize these funds towards this, 10 to 1, they're going to say, sure, but they want to know it because they do want to report back.
Kevin there.
Thank you. Kevin Adams, St. Bridget's of Nazareth. As a follow-up to the last question, is it possible to apply for grants before work is done? Obviously, you would be getting estimates and things like that, versus after it's done and hoping to get money to get reimbursed.
Sure. With regards to mission resource grants, absolutely. We would prefer actually that it not be a reimbursement. Actually, I'd prefer not to have the overhead of doing reimbursement kinds of things. I'd rather just write you a check, and I trust that you're going to expend those funds in the manner in which you applied for them.
Long name is the same way. The long name is almost always beforehand.
How we doing? Good, good.
Long name grants, September 15th, April 15th, and December 15th.
Just to follow up on the MRC, because a question I heard relating to timing and can I go in December. The team meets on the first Wednesday of every month. If you submit something in the middle of December, more than likely we're going to ask you to consider that a following year grant, and we'll treat it that way. We don't call people back in again. So realistically, if you've got something you want to try to get in before the end of the year, if you can get it to the team before Thanksgiving, given that we try not to work over the holiday, that would be beneficial, and then you would get a response in December. And if approved, it'll come with a check. So just keep the timing in mind.
Did we do it? I think we did it. Look, I'm so happy to see you all here. I can't tell you enough what a joy it is to be able to talk about spending your money, because it's your money. And I hope that we've been helpful in answering questions throughout the day. I'm really excited to close with an address from the bishop here soon, once we pry the people from the side rooms out, as well as a wonderful worship service. So with that, I'm going to conclude this session, and thank you for your attention and your questions. And 2 things to remember, 3, on the diocesan website, there is a section that says resources. On there, there's a page called Parish Management. It's a beautiful page. Go look at it and read it. This is where you can learn about the things that we've talked about here and a lot more. The second thing is I am legally changing my name to steve@diobeth.org. I cannot, however, compel anyone else in the office to do that, but if you wanted to email Paula, she would be paula@diobeth.org. Thank you very much.